You have to embrace chaos. Chaos is running the show. There's no such thing as order. Beating yourself up for mistakes you've made in the past doesn't make a droplet of sense. And no matter how bad things get, or no matter how bad things are, you have to understand that you are the product of trillions of decisions that have been made throughout your lifetime. And you're also the product of trillions of other mistakes and successes of other people. Everything you do is constantly slightly altering the timestamp of where exactly you will be next. Which also means that who you run into, who you meet, the channels and networks that are created are constantly being changed in real time. So to sit there and say that you've ever made a mistake is a lie, because you have absolutely no clue who you're gonna run into next. Every single red light you've ever waited at, every stop sign, every time you took a piss in the bathroom, every one of those choices changes the exact moment that you're gonna be at the venue later that night. Then you bump into a girl at the exact same time, which means trillions of those decisions had to occur to meet her. Now you're married, now you have a kid. Can you really look your son in the eyes and say that you ever made a mistake? Because everything that you did in your entire life had to happen at the exact moment that it did in order to have him. People have this complete misconception of their relationship with time and how it works. You are a product of complete chaos. What looks like a failure now could be your absolute golden ticket next week. The best example is in gambling, and life is a gamble. When you're at a roulette wheel and you bet on red and it comes up black and you beat yourself up and say, fuck, I knew I should have bet black. That's wrong. That's an incorrect way of thinking. The spin would have been completely different. Had you changed your mind or even moved the chips in any different capacity or fashion, the entire spin would have been different. Because you moved the timestamp. So the velocity in which he would have spun the wheel has changed. It's a different spin. It would not have necessarily been black. You can take that scenario and put it in you can plug it in any situation that you say, look back and say, I should have done this, I could have done this. Wrong. You've altered the timestamp. You've shifted, you've literally had an impact on everybody else's life too. Because every time you're driving and you make somebody change lanes, or you make someone make a different decision and react to what you're doing, you're changing who they're gonna bump into. They're literally, their opportunities, every person that they will ever meet is completely changed just because they ran into you on the road. So it is so chaotic, it is so impossible to compute, it's so impossible to process that it should absolutely liberate you from your past. There should be no hang up. It should be funny to you whatever happens. It's comedic. Because you could literally be a lifelong fuck up and win the lottery next week. You could literally walk into a liquor store, get a quick pick, hit the lotto, and then how could you look back and say you were a loser? You had to be a loser for 10 years in order to hit the $50 million jackpot. So wherever you are is completely irrelevant. Because understand that the game board is revolved and shifted so drastically based on trillions of decisions that you've made that none of your past is completely irrelevant. Everything you do has no bearing on your life, and everything you do has all bearing on your life. And that should bring you great peace, because all it means is that every decision you're making is constantly spinning the wheel. Even if you do nothing, you're changing the game board. But a hunter intuitively understands that they have to go out there and spin the wheel in order to get lucky. That's all it is. It's all about putting up shots and showing up. And there are no plans, because whatever you think is a plan, you have zero clue down the line how that's going to impact you. You can execute shit flawlessly and get smashed on a head-on collision through a red light and be annihilated. So it works with misfortune too. Misfortune and fortune, you're constantly being led into new doors, new portals of opportunity. And you never have any idea if you're making the right decision or not. The point is you have to keep moving to find out. That's the beauty of life. That's the optimism. It doesn't matter how bad it is. You should be inspired to keep moving on because you have no clue what's next. You really have no idea. And everything had to happen the way it did for you to get to the next point. So you could break your arm, you could break your heart 1,000,000 times. And it may happen for you. Heraclitus, the great philosopher, he said, you never step in the same river twice. Well, if you're paying attention, you realize that means you can never step in the same river once. Because the time stream is moving. So there's no do-overs. You can never step in the same place again. It's already gone. And this should really bring you some satisfaction inside, understanding that you've never made a true mistake. You can't say you have. Because the future is holding a very different set of packages and circumstances for you to seize and grasp. And it would never have been possible without everything happening the way it did. So embrace chaos. It's the mother of order. And it should give you a ruthless optimism about what's ahead.